Hey, everyone. It is your favorite CEO, Miss Flo, and welcome back to a new episode of Neon Mike, where the conversations just glow. I have the pleasure of having this amazing talent to just hit me up. And again, just welcome to the show, JGT Traveler. Hi, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you on this lovely Saturday night. How you been?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
I do appreciate you for reaching out and looking at some of your work. You are a very busy guy. You have so much stuff going on your YouTube. I have seen music. I have seen the stop motion animation. You even do podcasts or reviews. Like you have so much on your plate. But I'm gonna just let you go ahead and introduce some of the things that you have created.
Yeah, I consider myself more as a writer than anything else. I mean, and music is just an avenue of me of telling uh, my stories. I've been writing since the age of 5, and I'm 40 now. Um, and the story that you probably seen the animation series Super Mega Madness show. I started that back in I think maybe 2010, almost about 15 years ago. And I had that was like maybe a couple years after I had graduated from college. I took a class in fundamentals of animation, and they introduced me to different how to animate different animation styles. And my favorite was stop motion, and I had like a started buying like figures. And since Gundam is my favorite of all time anime series, I decided to get some figures from that series. And I actually got some rare ones from different series, like a Virtual On, um, was an old Sega. I think it was on Sega CD. It was basically another robot fighting game, and I got two figures from that one. Got a Bionicle, um, and then I had just like random robots for the villains. And then there's one episode that I'm working on right now. Like the series been on hiatus for the last several years because unfortunately I don't have enough flight. Like now I do. It took me a while to because life gets in the way. But like I have a ring light. Hopefully that's enough light for me. But then like the space is another thing, and then the I bought a green screen kit because the next episode that I'm working on is entirely I had to build a green screen set, and I have barely enough room in my own room to even set that up. And if I try to set up somewhere in my house, I'm competing for space with wherever stuff is like because I still live with my parents. Um, and so trying to set up that up is going to be a little it's going to be tough on that front. um so I've been just like cooking in the background with writing stories like this one book that I have that is based on a Supernatural Madness show, but is in the same universe as one of the main timeline in what I call the Reloya verse. And is the way how I written it. The name of the story is Cyberstorm, and it's actually in the first book in the series because of the time that it takes place in.
Oh wow! So you have been very busy. But for those that may not know, what is the Magnus show about?
Okay, so the Super Mecha Madness Show, or the acronym SMMS, which if you know about phones, MMS is multimedia service, and S probably be for like super or something like that, something that's like high tech. But it would the acronym for this in this situation is Super Mecha Madness Show. It follows the lives of the Super Mecha Team, which is a group of vigilantes, kind of like the Avengers and the Justice League, and the Autobots as well. Mostly the Autobots because they're all well, yeah, every last one of them are robots. There are humans that join them, but it's only like in niche situations where if the villains who are also bots, they have their own human that helps them out, and so that's the only time when the good guys that are humans help the main cast. And when I first started out the series, I was just doing random videos, um, like different like a story idea to introduce certain characters. Like I would do like a how I would set up each episode is that I would take like a parody of like something. So one episode I have a parody of Men in Black. One episode I have a parody of Ghostbusters, and another one Mission Impossible. And then another one I did Zero Wing, which is a video game, really old video game. The meme, "All your base are belong to us." I just made a huge like parody of that series, and just uh, even though the comedic value of it is there, you have to look at how each character is developed in those parodies. So it may be a random storyline, but when you look at the how each character, how you see their flaws and their strengths, and you see how that um, contributes to the overall unit of the team itself, and how they fight the bad guy. And you also see the bad guy uh, and their light of why they're such a threat to cyberspace and why the SMT has to go after them.
Ah, okay. Because like the vibe that I got from it, it was well, I got the Gundam reference, but I also like saw like it. If you ever watched Adult Swim and
Mhm.
remember Robot Chicken,
Yeah,
it was very much that, and that's like the part that I truly enjoyed.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's actually someone when I had my 10-year anniversary a couple years ago. One guy mentioned Red versus Blue. That was an old Machinima series. And actually, I was a Machinima partner doing that during that era, and um, how I got my YouTube partnership years ago when my series was on a different channel that was monetized. Um, that was a series that helped me become a YouTube partner, and I think like collectively each episode, there was like not all the episodes I have now, but like probably about half the season that I had back then. Like back then, like half the season I have now. Like probably maybe about 4 or 5 episodes I had, and those episodes collectively was about 1 million.
oh wow.
And
So
that's and then like I submitted to I think my first partnership was Machinima. Then I went to Freedom, and the sub partner uh, program was the Dynasty Network, and I still rep them to this day because that was the blurred community that I was in, and that they helped me get my further get my start, and that was before YouTube got rid of the sub partner networks, and then changed things to where the watch time and whatever, and that's like can't become a partner. I don't have the push the numbers to show. And usually it's now it's like how much money you can spend to promote yourself, and I don't have that kind of job right now to do that.
oh well, that's very unfortunate because it seemed like you had like a good thing going
Uh-huh.
and the strong partnership. Is there any chance that you maybe still be working with those partners just in a different capacity?
Except for posting videos on YouTube, somewhat it's more hit or miss. Like lately, some of my music videos get probably about a little bit over 100 views, and then I did my review on Arcane season. I think that was season two that it came out, and I'm going to be working on like when I get Cyberstorm, the book edited. I was going to be sharing things because I'm going to. I actually partnered with a freelancer. He's not on YouTube that I know of right now, but we're probably going to try to do like an anime basically, and I want to pitch that series to the Blurred Station. Um, I don't know if Super Mega Madness Show will qualify, but technically, they're even though they're somewhat of the same series, they're two different timelines. So
Uh,
just because like a Cyberstorm is what Super Mega Madness would have been in the main timeline. So even though Super Mega Madness show, the way when I wrote it, I had intended it to be in the main timeline, but as time moved on, it's like Verse already has like multiple different timelines anyway. And that's because of I first intended when I first like my first book that I published was in 2010 by Dream Team Publishing, and after they went under, I just self-published because traditional publishing houses they were just tripping. They still are. It's like
mm,
you pass up a good manuscript because you're looking for something that's like um, before that was before Game of Thrones was a thing, but something they was looking for something like that or J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, and I'm not into that level of mysticism or anywhere close. Like mine is more or less like powers of like mutants, Fantastic Four, not Constantine and Strange.
okay, I see. Well, it seems like what I've kind of seen now with like other authors is that there is a it's very limiting of where you can go to publish your work, especially
Uh,
as a Black author. But it seems like how did you get into self-publishing? And what advice do you have for somebody that may be looking to do the same thing?
okay, so I started out and create space, but they're now called Kindle Direct Publishing. And then I was looking around, it's like, and then I found out there was the other service that was better, which currently I use Ingram Spark, which back then they used to charge, and now they don't anymore. But last time I checked, the when I was looking for around time before I had selected Creative Space before Amazon bought them out and they became Kindle Direct Publishing. Other ones like, oh yeah, we charge. I said, I'm not spending no $500 just to publish one book. And
Oh.
then they had some outrageous price, and there was other ones like Duran's Publishing and some other ones that were like because I had copyrighted like my outline of like how I wanted my three books to go, which currently they didn't go that direction because I had intended to be like a college story, like a school story, kind of like you see kind of anime series that are like in college or whatever, like or school days or high school I did never watched that. I'm not in that type of stories anyway, but high school stories like that or Harry Potter was kind of like that, but I was like, I'm going to make my own college version of that, but instead of mysticism, use advanced technology, which is totally different from magic when you look at the logic of it. But I wind up turning it more into a Jason Bourne, Deep Space Nine type of story
Mm.
because the backgrounds of it. So it wind up transpiring, evolving into something like because the way how I currently have it is that each character that I have in like the three books that I have, um, it's three different stories, but by book three, they all know each other in the same space station, and you find out that, like, like one character is find out this group that's after her. The second person comes in, and there's this she's running from her own family. By book number three, you find out that they have a common enemy. And the third one, because time travel is involved, the third one comes from a timeline where the other two failed.
Mm.
So now three have to work together to create a new timeline where they all are alive. And at the time, I had when I wrote it, and that was like I had ideas for a third one to be a manga. Then I had to change that. It's like, well, why am I doing a manga for that? It's like, let me put the backstory of that person in the third book. So I had to take all my books off of Amazon to because right now I'm still working on a third, so third is not finished yet, but the first two are. But I'm like um sitting on those until, like, right now you can read them online, but when my publisher that I'm looking at um publishes them, it's going to be probably a little bit different. um and then years later I started doing the prequels to those three, because it's like more or less, like, like Isaac Asimov has his foundation trilogy of his universe. um the Reloaderverse, I had to do the same thing, because a lot of, like, the ones that were with the Reloaderverse from the start, the fans that I had, a lot of them, like, how I promoted my stuff was like through different collabs back during the day. The superhero collab by Reggie Serrano. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you excuse me for 1 second? My mother is calling. Let me check.
mhm.
Sorry about that. She mixed up the times. Where were we?
Yeah, so how I promoted my some of my characters, and starting with the Reloaderverse, was with the superhero collab, still on YouTube, and I used the character 2K Returner, and there was a lot of people that saw that. It's like, oh, you have a story? I was like, yeah, I do. He's in the Reloaderverse. At the time, I didn't come up with that name yet, but he was in my book series. And then I did something called Land Shark's Revenge, where he was the main character that was fighting Land Shark, and the Land Shark is from that old SNL skit
Mm.
that Steve Martin did, the one with Candy Graham. And so I was thinking, I said, okay, 2K Returner is in, like, he does show up in book three. And he has some history with the main character with the second book, because her story is that. And so what I did was, when I crafted the three prequel ones, I began of, like, the how time travel was invented, and it was a little bit different from the way how I had first intended. But I'm thinking, well, how can I establish the multiverse without being too convoluted? So I wanted to write the story of Dr. Kronos, because she was also a character in that um, multiverse. And I basically said that Dr. Sigma Melis, aka Dr. Kronos, was one who invented time travel. And this happened in a timeline that doesn't exist anymore, because she overwrote that timeline when she was discovering time travel. And so the way how I wrote it is that when she find out what she did wrong, she like the things that were, like, some things that she wanted to do, she wanted to change. It wound up being the way how I established time travel is no different from, let's say, like, because I'm an anime, I'll give an anime example: Dragon Ball. The timeline that Future Trunks came from is vastly different from the main timeline that Goku and Vegeta, all of them, are still alive in. He goes back to his own time. He didn't change nothing.
Mm.
And so with Dr. Kronos, it's the same way. She wants to change the outcome of a really bad event that happened in her own timeline, only winds up creating a timeline that 2K Returner is born in. And so the second book, My Nebula, he talks about this other like Dr. Kronos, and then like there's a Dr. Kronos in his own timeline, but she's not called Dr. Kronos. She's still Sigma Melis, but that's not her moniker. And um the way how I establish his character is more or less how Stan Lee did the first family of Marvel, which is the Fantastic Four. So the Richards family is the first family of Marvel, where the Goodman family is the first family of the Ray Lawyer-verse, and actually the Traveler's Frontier as well, because um, some of his progeny, his descendants, can traverse the multiverse, and they started families across different timelines. Um, and that's where it leads on to the manga series Powerland. Uh, his daughter is the queen, like this lady that's on the front. That's his daughter. Her name is she goes by Queen Lena because she's married to a king, but before she was a queen, her name was Celeste Goodman, and her middle name is Lena. So that's where the Lena comes from.
Got it. Okay, so you just gave me a lot. It seems like you have this whole universe completely mapped out.
Uh,
Um, I guess it's like, and there's a lot of focus around time travel.
uh,
What is your interest, or why did you choose to use that as the plot device or the center of your story?
and I got hooked on Doctor Who and Time Cop when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, probably earlier than that.
Okay, I was kind of getting that vibe as you were describing it because it just, you know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
I think what's interesting about time travel, and I've seen this whether it's like if you ever watch Back to the Future,
Hmm.
that whole franchise is just like I think there's always everybody has that one moment in time that they want to go back to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
or like
it's
with a mistake, like fix your own mistakes or whatever. Um, I like the concept, but then you have to look at the reality of it is because if people who are benevolent has access to the technology, yes, fine. But then you got people who are malevolent, and that's a possibility. If you looking back to the future as example, um, Biff, future Biff got a hold of the DeLorean. He stole one back in the past and changed stuff. Like technically wrote himself a new timeline, and the Doc and Marty had to go and fix that. And that's like across any show. I mean, technically, when you look at Dragon Ball, I don't know if I'm right. People who are um, more of a Stone Cold Dragon Ball fan than me, but what I got of it is I think Imperfect Cell was from the future, and there was more than one time machine. If Imperfect Cell was dealt with in the future, Perfect Cell would have never existed in the past in that main timeline. So he wound up making things worse for Goku and Vegeta. Whereas that when Trunks went back into the past, he only had to deal with maybe three androids. He didn't have to deal with Cell, but he did because the Cell from his timeline crossed over. And so you're always going to have that. If a technology that is basically revolutionary and they can change the course of history, you're going to you're going to have a clash of both of them. And also another live action series that I really dig the way how they use time travel. It was some multiversal aspect of it too. Continuum. The main it was a bunch of corporations, like basically without going a whole lot of detail into what Continuum is about. Basically, it was a future that was controlled by a bunch of corporations. The guy who was basically like a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk type of character, he felt regret over what he had created because the world wound up burning, in his opinion. So what he did was um, he sent some people back into the past to stop that future from happening. However, it was something that's happened. They wind up going off the rails, and one of his like wasn't like a bodyguard, but a part of like the totalitarian regime that that saw that they were going to go off the rails, and she followed them into the past. And the seasons that they had showed was this progression of like them systematically making that um history not happening. But the end result of it is wind up being another Dragon Ball type situation. You may have changed the future, but only one of those people remember what that future was, and they're like outside of time. Like, well, the thing like how old the Dragon Ball Super, um, Trunks' world wind up being gone. And he's the only person that knows all those events that happened because that future no longer exists. And that's the same thing that happened in the Continuum. But it was a really good series. And I there's a couple other ones that I can like they kind of took the Back to the Future approach, or with the butterfly effect. Is one other one that I was trying to remember.
But that leads me to like one of my
Mm,
questions. We know that
mhm,
in cinema history there is a
mhm,
consequence to messing going back in time and
mhm.
messing around or like trying to change history. So
Right.
are those same consequences still apply, or are we dealing with Marvel Endgame here, where it's just like eh, it won't affect too much.
It
You know what I
somewhat
mean?
depends. Yeah, it depends on like the walls. It is like I established it more or less as like a what if type of timeline. So the time travel doesn't really change anything; just creates another branch in the reality. So like um, this one manuscript, this book that I finished called Azure and the Dreamer. Um, Celeste, in the attempt to try to herself, she's trapped somewhere. Like this is before she came to Powerland. Um, she was trapped in a prison somewhere, and so she pulled the Doctor Manhattan and Scarlet Witch as well to put herself in every reality, trying to find someone who was worthy enough to help her out. But and so in doing so, she basically changed that timeline, and it's usually the ones who are reality warpers. They can like overwrite certain things, whereas people that only have like technology that can only do that, they wind up creating a different timeline. So for Celeste, for example, she's on a level of Franklin Richards, and Franklin Richards created his own like pocket dimensions and whatever, and he could probably rewrite reality if he wanted to. Celeste could do the same thing, and but in doing so, that could inadvertently erase the reality that that person originally came from. And that's the way how I had developed like her rules of time travel is different from Dr. Kronos's rules of time travel, the way how it's because Dr. Kronos only has technology, whereas Celeste, her biology allows her to rewrite time and reality around her.
Ah, I get it. So it just depends on your ability, whether it is like if the I guess
Advanced technologic, yeah, that's advanced technologic or biological. And um, Celeste's case, it would be more or less like, to put it in Marvel terms, she would be considered like on a cosmic level, like on the level of Franklin Richards. And if she ever like a fan fiction she'd go over, she would be able to do the same thing as Franklin Richards or Doctor Manhattan. Like they're and Wanda, they're all on the same level. Even Molecule Man.
oh wow. Well, that's what like that's. amazing, especially if you were able to like give this ability to like a female character, because I
Mhm.
feel like that type of ability has been mostly given to male characters, as you listed before.
Yeah, and Marvel, I've only known probably a handful of people that can use uh time travel or even reality warping. Wanda being one of them. There was this one series. It was a timeline. Um, I forgot what X-Men run it was, but it was this one guy that was named Matthew Malloy, and he was also a reality warper. But the reason why you don't hear about him is because that the Professor X, he basically couldn't control his powers,
Mm.
and he was a threat to not only the X-Men but the Avengers. And they had to use another girl. Her name was Ava Bell to basically go back in time to unfortunately make sure he doesn't exist because he was too uncontrollable. They couldn't stop him. And so, as far as time travel is concerned, I didn't really know there was any female character in Marvel that could time travel. I don't know if she was it was biological or she was a mutant, but technically, I'm thinking she was probably a mutant. I'm not 100% unsure. I just read a Wikipedia of that storyline, and they mentioned her, and I said like, oh, so she's kind of like Cable and Bishop, but I don't know if she can do that with her mutant powers or she has technology because Cable and Bishop have technology that has them to go through time. And if she can do that as a mutant, that's biological time travel powers.
Ah, I see. Well, they'll let us know in the comments of whether we're right or wrong.
Mhm.
Um, I do want to show off your manga here. You raised it up in the camera a second ago, but I do want to kind of go over this because let me see if I can make it bigger to help me see because I'm further back. This is Powerland. If you could kind of just talk about this book and what it means to you, because it looks like this is like, can you get a physical copy, or is this like you can also read it online?
Yeah, you can read it online. I mean, I haven't set up like where you can actually buy the physical. We used to be on TikTok, but unfortunately, if the ban goes through, there goes my being able to sell on TikTok. But I did sell some copies on TikTok, but it's like best now. It's like to move it to my own website, because TikTok won't allow me to sell it the way how like if I want to sell it for more, supply and demand, I could. Because right now I have it half off at $10. I've been selling physical copies here locally as well, but there's so much I can do and how many people I can promote it to.
Ah, got it. But if you could give us like a quick synopsis of the manga and what it's about. Um,
Okay, so the Powerland series itself begins with the creation of it. It doesn't start at Haria. Haria is basically, trying to remember what it is. The first one is Genesis, that begins with Celeste. The second one is Exodus, which happens like Powerland technically has two timelines, but the other one wind up getting rewritten with the storyline of what Exodus is. So then the third one is my novella Stardust Girl, which is one of the main characters that you will see in Haria. And Haria itself is the fourth story. So when I conceived the idea, I started with Stardust Girl first. Then I developed it's like, well, the several hundred years, nobody does anything for several hundred years. Then Haria comes in, and you got this problem. Um, and basically, the group that stopped the Anomaly Nexus War in the novella, the Stardust Girl. Um, they just go on a long waited vacation. They finish, they defeated the Queen Anomaly and King Anomaly. They're not in power anymore. The world's not threatened to being destroyed because they were basically a bunch of genocidal maniacs. And the way how I had written it, is that the anomaly race were very can't say xenophobic. Um, Technically they were, but only to those who had superpowers. So people like put in like a multiversal fictional reality type of thing. They would welcome people like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, those who had power, even Captain America, because he's a super soldier and his powers came from a needle. And technically, the anomaly, their powers are the same way from a genetic from dark matter, which is the glue of the universe in certain continuities. Not just what DC has, because DC is like, well, whatever what they do with dark matter. But I put like dark matter is more or less like a something a substance that you can use probably like a liquid, but only those that only those like that know how to find it in the universe and know how to refine it to give it the ability. And I actually explain a little bit more about the anomaly creation in one of my prequel books. Um, I think that was maybe in my Nebula, and then I explain a little bit more in the Azure and the Dreamer. So the anomaly and Powerland, they did not like they basically they were hating on people who didn't have powers. That included us, the humans. And because Powerland is like a melting pot of like how the United States is, Powerland, technically the way how I had like the background of it is, Powerland is interdimensionally linked to Earth through places like the Bermuda Triangle. So somebody disappears on the Bermuda Triangle, or they disappear out of like off of the Earth or something like that. Maybe like Amelia Earhart, um, one flight in Malaysia. Um, Christopher Columbus, some of his crew, maybe some people like in the desert or whatever may fall through like a pit or whatever, like a sound, like a quicksand pit or something, find themselves a power land somewhere, and that growing human population, and you see the anonymous like, oh, they're defenseless. Did they? It was like, oh, like who are these normies? This is what the king anomaly said. Who are these normies that just come up in our land? It's like they made somewhere something called the Gem Isles. That's where they started at. Where like the lost city of Roanoke. That's the one of the legendary like how that city just went up and disappeared. And I just explains like there's a storm just rolled through there. They find themselves in Powerlands. Like boom, they just up and disappeared. And that society started flourishing. Roanoke just like decides like, okay, we'll just make other cities and things like that. And then they run into the anomaly, and there's like, well, we can't do anything about these superpower individuals. But then you got the Nexus that are like, when you think about it, we all came from the humans. The person who created all of us was a human himself. So why are you hating on somebody who don't have powers? At one point, we were like them.
Mm,
So you have this divide, and then now it says, wait a moment, you used to be. How are you taking the size of some normies? You're a superpower. You should be with us. And the next is like Queen Nexus, like, no, we are all humans at our base. We're just genetically some are genetically modified, some were genetically um created, procreation, whatever. And Don, unfortunately, the one thing that I had put in, like as far as like the anomaly is concerned, dark matter gave them their powers, but the drawback is they were very arrogant, and some of them, the best of them, the strongest of them, were crazy. And Don being psychotic, psychosis, and his psychosis, he's like, I'm done with y'all. Like, forget you, forget them, forget all of y'all with these normies. I'm going to attack all of y'all. And so that's how the war began. And then the backdrop of like with the Stardust Girl, um, Zinni was his daughter, and he really was like, okay, I'm dealing with these normies. Hopefully my daughter will be enough to, one day be a part of my army, and she has a power, fate winds up handing him a daughter that doesn't have any powers.
Mm.
So you have this, like, basically she's experienced, like, I don't know what will go through a woman's mind when you're being rejected by your father or your parent, that because of something that you don't have that they want you to have but you don't. Like, basically you'll never be enough, you never amount to anything to that parent. And for Zany, that psychologically messes with her mind. And in the scope of it, the way how I wrote that story is that she wound up having to be on the outside to find a way how to shut them down, because she finds out that they have perpetrated all this genocidal mission. And it's like she wants to live a life like, okay, they exiled me, I don't want nothing to do with society or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way how she was born, like, because her mom is a human, but she's a superpowered human. So Don had no problem getting with her. But the thing is, when her daughter was born, like, there was actually the way how I had the genetics of an anomaly. At a certain age, a child starts displaying superpowers. Even though Zany didn't have any, like, the general powers, like maybe like what an elementalist would have, like fire, ice, lightning. Some of them have a specialized fire, ice, or some element or whatever. Or some of them might be able to do something like what Magneto could do, or Forge. But Zany winds up being super strong and like the Flash. Her father wanted her to have elemental superpowers, so it's like you're not enough. And it's kind of like bereaved her to that point. And then, like, when her powers really started kicking in, not only was she super powerful, she was impenetrable, but at the cost of her skin turning into like a dragon reptile. And that was the source of even more. Now she's like this ugly duckling, basically,
Mm.
to her society. And they poke fun of her, and it's like, but then the secret thing is her mom is a telepath, like Jean Grey. That is one power that she can't tell anybody about, because the fact is that, like, the backdrop of it is, like, the you think the anomaly would be together. However, with the different guilds, they have their own um
So it's a
um
hierarchy, like a class system. It's like
right,
you have
right,
a certain type of power,
right.
you
So you
may be
have, like,
considered higher or
yes.
lower.
Yeah, so you have, like, the ice guild has no dealings with the water guild. The fire guild has nothing to do with the earth guild. And then there's the Veritas guild, who are the telepaths. And the flamers really hate them. And so, for lack of a better pun, they started flaming the Veritas guild. And the Veritas guild is like, well, we can't really do anything. It's like, well, the queen can help us out. And they find out that and this was like when Zeni was a little kid. They find out that the queen was a telepath. And they said, okay, so that means that the families find out that the queen is a telepath, because she has a secret membership with the Veritas Guild. They don't like the Veritas Guild because they're like, it's an invasion of privacy. It's like if you can hack somebody's mind and they have no defense against that. And the Flamers, not only because they're like, they all have, like, fire powers, head canon, they're very impulsive. And they call themselves trying to, like, okay, we're gonna wipe out, like, we're just gonna call a class war on the Veritas and their allies, not knowing that the queen has membership, and you don't mess with the queen. So all this is like, in the backdrop when Zenny was a kid. So when Zenny was developing her telepathic powers, her mom said that this is one power you cannot display. I know you like to show off your super speed and your super strength and whatever, But tell but your psychokinesis, that's a big no-no. But the thing is, Zenny wants to impress her father. She wants her father to recognize her as his own daughter, winds up attracting the attention of the Flamers Guild. And so I have like that part of the novel that she has to deal with as well. And In the Powerland Haria, there's a story point that they revisit that moment. The Flamers don't. They're like at a minimum. They know like they don't mess with the royal family because of what happened to them and the backdrop and the events of the Stardust Girl novel. But in Powerland Haria, you see like in one of the chapters, the way how I wrote it from like a you see the upbringing of the main villain. And I did that to not garner sympathy, but there's some people like how like people don't see Magneto, Thanos, MCU Thanos, not the comic book Thanos, and uh Killmonger as really not villainous because when you look at like Killmonger, he was Wakanda first.
Mm.
Magneto was mutant first. MCU Thanos was his people first. So somewhat he was somewhat like Killmonger, uh comic and MCU as well. So the main villain of Powerland Haria is Anila Esme. She sees the corruption of the society that she was adopted into, the police brutality. Basically, like the city of Lux was no different from, let's say, Gotham City.
Mm.
And so she saw this need to do cause she was born into a wealthy like family. So technically she had the level of like if you ever seen I think with Superman and Lois where they met with the one of the one of the main he was like Lex Luthor. I can't remember, he was a black guy. And I can't remember his name. He had a he was doing all the stuff for his wife who was a metahuman. But he was basically like a Lex Luthor, but they just ethnicity swapped the power, like the person. And Anila Esme would be like him because she has like technically she didn't start with anything because her parents were like really like uppity. Like they were basically the way how the anomaly were to anybody that wasn't like them. They kicked them out. But Anilla didn't like this was like in between the Amnarians. So you got the rich Amnarians that were nothing to do with the Lord Amnarians. And Anilla believed that we should be helping one another no matter how much money you have. She got kicked out for that notion.
Oh wow.
So she's on the streets and she sees this corruption. She sees like these debt officers collecting like you could say repo man depending on the context or landlords or something like that. These corrupt landlords going around collecting um, um, wind up being slumlord when you look at it, or tax officers or something like that. Um, and they're going around antagonizing people who are already penny pinching to make ends meet. And this jerk of a tax collector comes in bullying this old lady in the store that Anila is shopping at. And he's like, you where's my money, lady?
Mhm.
As a meme would go. And Anila's like, really, it's like, no, that's enough. It's like, well, what you gonna do about it? All right, do you know who this lady is?
Mm.
And the way how I wrote it is she rises up and the people around her are like, wait a minute, we know who you are. I said, how did you wind up getting kicked out? They were the most snootiest of the Amnarian class is, why did they kick you out? And she tells him, I said, because I believe that you should be working towards getting up to them. You shouldn't be stopped because of your lot in life. You should be able to rise above to where they're at. Because at one point, the Esmes were down where they were. They just so happened to be wealthy because of a fishing business.
Mm.
So Anila's like, okay, it winds up having to like using some of the same formula because Zany had to wind up going against her parents because of what I mentioned earlier. Now you got Nilla has to go against her parents for her same ideals that are similar, but what makes her a villain is because she opposes the main characters.
Let's see that you have a well immersed universe that I think a lot of people can't relate to. We are seeing more of the divide, a class divide in the country. We are seeing levels of discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is race or economic status. So I think this is something that people could definitely resonate. Um, this is like a multi-part series. You went backwards, forwards, up, down, side to side, uh, with this anthology. So, how many of the books are out right now, and where can people buy it?
Okay, so for the Powerland, the Stardust Girl is available on Amazon. Issue one is available. Powerland Haria is on Amazon. The way how Ingram Spark is set up, I have to have like enough pages in order to um be able to put it up on there. And this unfortunately is only 60, so I need like three more chapters. Which the volume two that includes volume two because volume one is only three chapters and each chapter was 20 pages. Unfortunately, it's on hiatus because artists ain't cheap, and I unfortunately don't have enough support to keep the series going, and that's what I've been trying to promote it. And we know how life is, and depression kicks in. It's like you don't want to do anything because, like, what's the point? You try to promote this, and nobody's biting, and like when it does, you wind up getting a bunch of people that's like scam artists. They're not really doing their
Mm.
job. And that can set you down an even like grimmer path of not wanting to do anything. But for me, I just keep going. Um,
So wait, did someone scam you? Because I know with publishing, you do have to put some money up
mhm.
front to push
Well,
it
it's not
forward.
just that. It's actually with trying to get the story out. Like I've been trying to find like ways to make money so I can get that and running into people that are like unscrupulous. It's like it makes you just want to give up, not do anything because your own day job isn't enough to cover, you know,
Uh,
that. Um, and that's like somewhat forced of the frustration that I have in my Kickstarter. Um, some things that happened there. I'm still working on that. Like besides the pandemic coming out of it, then I'm like had to start all over again to get everything out. And it's trying not to pull out all my hair because I'm already like partially bald and not trying to go bald or even faster.
it can be taxing.
Mhm.
Have you tried a Kickstarter or
I have, and I'm not comfortable in starting another one until this one is like completed. Because those people, I don't even know if some of them are still at the same address, but I'm still going to send them out. It's just right now, it's like I'm now trying to get back to that because I had everything on full hiatus for like the past several years because I didn't have a job at that time, pandemic, and I just found me a job. So it's like I
Mm,
had no money to send anything out.
got it. Okay.
Like my only source of income was sales from the manga and trusting in the wrong people that all went south.
Who were these people and what exactly happened?
It was I think I ordered some services like to help them to help me. It's like, well, we will get this out for you, and I paid all this money, and it was like a surplus of what I made on my Kickstarter. I spent all the money, I got everything bought and ordered, and then I had another service to it was like one of those things. It was a red flag when they asked for my password, but I wasn't thinking clearly, and I just now got my Kickstarter account back.
Oh, so wait a minute. So they took your Kickstarter and they took
Hmm.
money from you with the promise of distribution and promotion?
Hmm.
Oh, well, that's one. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's very unfortunate because you are onto something with this story. And like I said earlier, it is something I feel like a lot of people can resonate with. So
Yeah,
like
and
I
I actually was like sending some of the physical copies out with issue one, and it was some issue is that someone kept on intercepting some of them and sending them back, and I'm like, how's this happening? That is the right address. And I even told the person that was the right address, and I finally did, get them out after like 4 or 5 tries. And I'm like, as like, okay, so someone was purposely making sure that I didn't get my rewards out. And so I was saving up money to get my rest of mine. I said, but what if they like, because there's a lot more in the boxes that I'm sending out than just issue one. I don't want any of those going missing and those people um, saying they didn't get their rewards. And I didn't want to say anything like when I did get my Kickstarter back because um, I don't even know if I completely got them out of my account. And so I have had to be like really cautious on like, how I went about trying to resolve this issue.
have you what has Kickstarter said? Have you reported it to the website?
When I got it back, I had to it was like an email. I had to change my email. When I changed the email, and I still had to because I did like one I extended on Indiegogo, and I got to get that one fixed off as well. But not that many people bought from when I reached the goal at Indiegogo said, "Oh yeah, you can infinitely promote it from here," and that's what I did. But only like 1 or 2 people that bought off on there. But the Kickstarter, I have to go back. Like now, since I have the money, I can start sending these out to the addresses that I have written. Like some of them, I have to like go into the Kickstarter to find the address, and I was locked out for a while, and I don't know if I was being blocked from receiving Kickstarter's emails or what, but I didn't get anything for like several years.
Oh, wow. Um, again, I am so sorry that this has happened to you. It's very unfortunate because even as a black writer, it is it's a challenge to get your foot in the door.
Hmm.
Not everybody is going to understand your concept because for the most part it is coming from a black perspective. Even though like the stories are written for everybody to understand. But for that's like very strange what happened to your fundraisers, um, and I do hope that it gets resolved, and I do hope that you get the push that you deserve. Where can people find you on social media and to like help elevate your work?
Okay, so I have let's see, 2 Instagrams, but one of them is for the Powerland series specifically, which Powerland series is where it's at. And then Travelers Frontiers for everything else, like for things that I'm doing on my YouTube channel, both my YouTube channels, by the way. Um, my oldest one is 2K Return. That's for my gaming. Um, um, if I do PC gaming right now, my computer's so trash I can't play League of Legends anymore, and unfortunately, Marvel Rivals is only for Windows, and that game looks really fun. But I can't. I used to have a Windows machine, but power supply went out, and I haven't had the money to save up to buy me another one. So I've been doing mobile gaming, which I do play one Marvel game, Marvel Strike Force, and then a couple of Final Fantasy games. And then there's one game that's basically the spiritual successor of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, Another Eden. Written by the same person who wrote both of those stories. And I have done some videos, but I don't like consistently do that because like I just like maybe if I pull something cool, I would record it or just for meme purposes. Other than that, I don't. I like my last video was I think it was Arcane season 3, no 2. Um, season 3 is going to be an entirely different name altogether. Um, but some people believe it's like, well, why don't you do like different reviews of different shows you want to watch? I say, yeah, that's a lot of like. If I have the time, I'm always constantly writing or writing stories, either in music or with a pen. And so I don't really watch TV unless I'm like, looking for ideas.
Well, that's great. All the links will be in the description below. So make sure that you guys go ahead and follow Traveler. Make sure you hit him up on the socials and be on the lookout for the book. But you do have some books that people can purchase as of
Hmm.
right now, correct? All right. So make
Yes,
sure that you support him because he really does have like an amazing story to tell. It's just a string of bad luck. But I wish all the best for you and I hope that your work does get out there. We're
thank
gonna
you,
wish for some good luck in 2025.
thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much and see how you guys glowed from that conversation. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.